In today's video, I'm going to be going over the most essential legendaries from set 1, which is AWAKEN. Okay, let's get started then. So, I'll say that by and large, there's not that much good stuff in set 1, so you shouldn't be pulling on it excessively. The amount of packs the game gives you for free and that you'll get over time through logins should be more than enough, and frankly, any legendaries that you see that you need are probably worth crafting. Additionally, I'd like to take now this opportunity here to point out that in my initial whaling guide, which I made about a month ago, I recommended either the green deck or the red deck, I believe, the one with either Pandoria or Wallace. I'm changing that recommendation. Only get the green deck with Pandoria. At this point, Wallace is not really competing. They're not on the same level. And I'm saying that now because we're talking about Pandoria, and this is probably the best card in AWAKEN. I think it's difficult to find a card, even in the game, with more generic utility, with just this ability to see play from now till the end of time. You can search for any base minion, and that's that. Doesn't really matter what you're doing, helps you fixing your hand. It's just generic and it's just great. This is probably the best card in AWAKEN, and so if I was giving like an out of 5 rating, this would be a 5 out of 5. 100% you need to get copies of this. You might not need them for any immediate decks, but I am certain in the future you will see yourself using it. Next we have Alliance Magistrate Asogi, which says whenever one of your minions with the swoop effect enters the field, that minion gains plus 300 BP, plus 1 DP for the duration of this turn. This is an avian card, so it is synergistic with the Evoker deck, but it doesn't really see much play because it doesn't really do enough. Buffing BP and DP is not bad in and of itself. However, the issue is that it's not really helping you win, and it's sort of a thing that has to be on the field. It's really easy to deal with, it's very easy to remove. You need to summon a lot of things for this to really feel like it's giving you value, and fundamentally, if you're trying to do that kind of thing, I would say go play mid-range blue, because it does this sort of buffing and then hitting really hard way better. So yeah, I would say that this is like a 2 out of 5, really not very good. Next we have Melee Celestial Tree Guard. Passive, if you select a target to put into the rest state, select one more eligible target. This is another very, very strong card. This currently still sees play in green, primarily elf green, and is likely to see play reasonably far into the future. Getting a 6/1 for 4 is already very reasonable in terms of the stats that you're getting there, and the ability is very synergistic with a lot of what green does. So I would say this is a 4 out of 5. Next we have Alliance Chief Officer Diesel. On your opponent's turn, your opponent's minions with a cost of 5 or lower cannot attack your forces. If this said cannot attack, I think this would be very, very, very strong. In fact, probably a bit too strong. The fact that it stops low cost minions attacking forces is good in some very niche matchups. And whilst those matchups may or may not be frequent depending on a given format, overall I don't think this card has the generic utility and the longevity to be seeing play well into the future, and so I'd give it a 3 out of 5. It's okay and it has its place, but it's difficult, ironically, for you to find place in a deck to actually run it. Next we have Alliance Commander Vangis. On your turn, all your minions with the cost of 3 or lower receive the charge effect. This is not a bad ability, it's actually very good. However, an issue is that clearly the intention here is for you to... Sorry, my hair is an absolute mess. Clearly the intention is for you to play this turn 5, scoop it into base, or otherwise ensure it's protected. Turn 6 play Golem Summoning, or then shove this out. So you have 4 1/1s with charge, and you can do something. That's not that good. Fundamentally, especially at the current level of the game, it's very slow. It means you're not being very aggressive early on. It means you're already waiting till turn 5 or so to actually get any real value out of this. And it's taking up deck space for a higher cost minion that is only really working with lower cost minions, which means you're operating on a very low hand, and that's not likely to go well for you when you get board wiped once and suddenly you're stuck with drawing bad cards, 2 costs and 1 costs, because you needed them in order to set up a field that would work with this. So I would say this is a 1 out of 5, not worth crafting at all. Next we have Jade Carriage, the Maestro. Passive. Every time you use a magic card, 1 token merman, which is a 2/2/1, with a 2 cost 2/1 rather, enters your field. So I think this has actually gotten a bit better with this set, because you are able to spam cast a lot of spells in blue nowadays. And I think if the Evoker base minion did not exist, this would probably be the way that blue went, in terms of just spamming tokens and like destroying forces and then just using a token spam strategy to end the game, hoping that there wasn't any removal for Maestro once you began attacking. I think that's possible. That's possibly the way blue could have developed. As it is, we do have the Evoker base minion, and this is not good enough to play, is the simple fact of the matter. There is no reason to run this, because it doesn't provide a useful strategy in and of itself to build a deck around compared to that, and it doesn't really work as a tech choice or something that you can just splash in, because it's taking up space and it's happening on curve when you don't normally want to be doing your very strong mid-rangey stuff. So this gets a 2 out of 5, just because I don't think it's a bad card, I just think it doesn't have a place. Next we have Tilt and Wealth, the Astral Choir. On your turn, the when summoned abilities of your minions will be activated twice. This effect cannot stack. This is a card waiting to see play. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 right now. You don't see it in play in any decks at the moment. I am 100% certain at some point in the future there will be a deck that abuses this. It's going to happen, 100%. It's just a matter of time. Next we have Demon Knight Dust Rider. When summoned and at the start of your turn, increase your movement by 1. So getting Sphinx here, Pegasus, on a minion is definitely not bad. But the issue here is if you play this on curve, then realistically you're going to play it, shove it into base, and then drop a 1 cost or a 2 cost, and if you want any value out of that movement, shove those into base as well for a bit of ramp. This is taking up a lot of deck space and making your turn do a whole lot of nothing just for a little bit of extra ramp that you would have been getting basically anyway with Pegasus. If you play this late in the game, it's basically doing nothing, unless you happen to have a lot of minions that have been shoved into base against your, if you're against blue, for example. At that point I can see that being quite useful, where they've shoved a huge amount of stuff into your base so you can just bring it all out. But again, that does seem rather niche. So I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5 because I can see it being useful in some scenarios, but they're not common at all, and therefore this isn't really something you should worry about needing. Next we have Zintine, Seeker of False Gods. When attacking, you can destroy one of your other minions. If you do, this minion enters the active state. This card has a lot of potential, I think, and if you're able to give it good enough protection that it can't be removed, which is a bit difficult because fundamentally the way this game is designed, where colours just have different forms of removal, giving anything immunity to all of them feels like it would be a bit too good, so I don't think they'll ever do it. So you're always inherently going to be having some losing matchups as a result of that, right? So immediately this card is dead against those. In the matchups where it's not dead, then cool, okay, you get to restand, swing, restand, swing, restand, swing, restand, swing. However, again, this just feels like a worse version of mid-range blue, and white have cards that do similar things, this doesn't seem very special, and it also is heavily reliant on building a big board prior to actually playing this card. In addition, it's only 1 DP, so you're going to have to, you know, clear your whole board to get any sort of meaningful damage in. And in addition to all of those factors, the fact this is played for 6 means that you probably haven't dealt with both your opponent's forces yet. So, you know, you're wasting attacks there as well that you're going to have to be making against the forces. So overall, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5, because I don't think it's bad, but again, no real place for it. Not really a viable strategy at the moment, but it does have potential to just win you games, even if it will tend not to. And it does have Demon Synergy, which is another sort of factor that is making me not give this a 1. Next we have Chronorion, Mover of Time. Passive, reduce the basic cost of colour cards in your hand by 1 for each of your forces. And passive, increase the basic cost of neutral field minion cards in your opponent's hand by 1. So this is a weird one. Basically, so it kind of has cost reduction 2 on it for everything, which in the current state is actually quite good. 6 cost reducial, if you have both your forces, 6 cost 5/2 with cost reduction 2, you can see that seeing potentially some kind of play. I don't think you would, because it's kind of screwing with your curve a little bit, and it's a little bit too late, but you could use it. The second ability to increase the basic cost of neutral field minions, I think, is really going to be what the tipping point for this card will be, whether or not it will see any play. And that's just, if we ever get a meta that is full of just neutrals, like there are a huge number of neutral field minions that basically every single deck runs because they're so good, like if they introduced some sort of package that was self-contained and it was neutral so every class could use it. This has happened in Hearthstone before, where they had generic support and then archetype-specific support for, I can't remember, it's a big dragon that you use as a hero and you place it over, I can't remember the name of it, but every deck, every class could use that and had their own specific things, and there was also some generic. If such a thing did exist, then I suppose in theory this could see play, but I think the odds of it happening are really, really slim. So I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5 again, because I don't want to rate it a 1, because I can see it being useful, but it's probably not going to be useful. Next we have Wallace, and this dude is still really good, but the issue is, the deck he was always probably going to be best in was red, and red just got a strictly better version of Wallace for the same cost in Forbidden. So now we just have Wallace in the other classes, in the other colours. And Wallace is still really good. Buffing everything by 1/1 is still a good ability. Unfortunately, it's a lot less good outside of red, and realistically, this is not going to be seeing play in everything. I'm going to rate this a 3 out of 5, because I still think it's very good, but it doesn't have a place at the moment. However, if you did pull copies of Wallace, I wouldn't be salty or upset at all. He's definitely a very good card. Next we have Enrico, Revolver of Time. When summoned, both players discard all cards in their hand, and each player draws 5 cards. This is good if you're against a match where, if you're playing a deck that tends to hit a low hand size, and then your opponent is not playing that deck, basically. If they're playing a deck that has a mid to a high hand size, this is straight value. If you ever play this when your opponent has less than 5 cards, this is really bad. You're just negging yourself quite hard, you're just giving your opponent like 3 advantage, basically. So this is a funny one. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, because I think it has potential, could definitely see play in some kind of deck. It's just a matter of when and if, but it could. Next, Belphegor, and this is definitely the best colour card. He still sees play in purple to this day. Basically a staple, he's really, really strong. You increase the base cost of field minions in your opponent's hand by 1, which is already a very good ability. And then when attacking, you also just get a minion back from your base, and you have some very strong minions in purple that mean that this ability is hella good. It's really good. So yeah, this gets a 4 out of 5. It's not a 5 out of 5. It's not all that generic utility. It's still a color legendary. There's always going to be worse than really good generic ones, but it's still pretty good. So if you get Belphegor, consider purple. Next we got Alazan, King of the Deep. When summoned, move up to 3 minions from your base to the field and put them in the active state. This is a pretty strong ability. If you've been building your base all game, then this is going to be really, really good. And then when attacking, move one of your opponent's minions into their base in the rest state, which is also really, really good. This basically just feels like a later game version of the Revolving minion. And because of that, this isn't likely to see much play, because obviously with the evoker based minion I can kind of do the same thing earlier and I can just kill you before you're really prepared. But I do still think this is a good card. So I don't think it's as good as Belphegor, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I don't think you would be salty if you pulled this. Next you got Viceroy the King. On your turn, whenever one of your minions attacks, your opponent must block, and whenever this minion wins a battle, deal 1 damage to your opponent's life and to each of your opponent's forces. This has kind of just been power crept out of white because they have so many strong late game options that you would never want to use this. So, I mean, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 because if you happen to pull this and you didn't have the other stuff, then you could use it. It's not really bad, but it's not good, and it's not something I'd recommend actively crafting at all. And I believe... No, not finally. We've still got a little bit to go. There's Arendai Origins 02. When summoned, you can have 2 Token Golem S into your field. And when attacking, if this minion attacks your opponent's life, you receive the following effect for the duration of the turn. Whenever your minion attack is blocked, deal 1 damage to your opponent's life. So this can just straight kill. This can be really, really annoying. It means if your opponent set up a whole wall of blockers, it doesn't really matter because you just swing the face, and there's nothing they can do, they're taking that damage. How likely is that to happen? Again, quite niche. Red is traditionally quite an aggressive deck, and when it isn't, we're talking about this kind of Battle Spirit deck where this really will not be fitting in. So, again, 2 out of 5 because it's not a bad card, it just doesn't have a place right now. And I wouldn't feel too good about pulling one. It's probably one of the worst ones you can get out of this set, but not that bad. Like, you could use it if you were building budget red or something and you just needed to use red for something. Next we've got Aibo, Lord of the Skies. When summoned, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and select 2 field minions, reveal them to your opponent, add them to your hand, put the rest of one of your deck in any order. And whenever, or random order rather, and whenever another minion enters your field, this minion enters the active state. So this can be really good. Synergizes with the whole yellow mechanic of swooping, and it gives you something to play on the opponent's turn. However, we run into this trap of this being a 9-drop card, which means you will be late into the game when this activates. So yeah, okay, you're probably going to be hitting something off those top 4. You might only hit 1. If you hit 1, that's not great. If you hit 2, and you got Phoenix up, so you're untapping everything, and your opponent attacks you so you can actually get value out of this, or at least they don't immediately remove this so you can get value on your turn by constantly restanding it, then it's good. Probably not happening. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 because I don't think it's bad, and I think it's a little bit better than some of the other ones, and it has seen play in the past, so it's got potential, but I think it's probably on its way out. Though it is a Chimera, so there is that synergy too. Cedarwood Treewalker, the Chiliad. Pierce, and on your opponent's turn, damage onto your life is reduced by 1, 13-4. There's basically no reason to run this over Twin Horn, so 1 out of 5? No, it's okay. It's 2 out of 5 again because it's not a bad card, but it's just a better version. There's not really a reason to play it. But if you didn't have Twin Horn, then you could build the deck using this, and it would be worse, but you could do it. Lachesis, Decider of Fate. When summoned, switch your opponent's life points with one of your forces points. This is a 5 out of 5 card. Whilst it's not mega prevalent in the meta at the moment, it's generically incredibly strong, can in theory be used in any deck, and, you know, in the best case, effectively burns for like 6 to 9 or something, depending on how much life your opponent has and how much life your force has. So yeah, this is good. This, in my opinion, completely deserves the 5 out of 5 rating. And finally, Lord Alabaster, the Embattled, the anime card. Charge. When attacking, deal 3 damage to your opponent's life. For each force your opponent has, this damage is reduced by 1. So this can just instant kill. If your opponent has no forces, it's just a wabam, burn 3, I win. And you can use it. I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 because no decks really use it, but you could, and it could probably win you games, and I don't think it's a bad card, but I don't think it's super good either. So, those are my ratings on the essential cards from Awaken. If I was to summarize, I would say the top 2 generics, so the top cards are basically Pandoria, Wallace, Lachesis are your generics, and then Belphegor, and her name is Millie. Those are your top 5. Those are really the only essential cards from Awaken you definitely need. If you get cards beyond that, they're not super important. If you get those, I'd be pretty happy. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. Please leave a comment for any other content you would like me to make. Please add me in-game with my friend code. And please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, because that way, money, spend on game, more packs, better videos, more videos. I hope you enjoyed this video once again, and I will see you in my video. Cheers.